أما بعد فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن المتقين في جنات وعيون صدق الله العلي العظيم. The first of our salawat in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Sayyidat an-Nisa al-Alameen. The second of our salawat in honor of Imam Hassan and Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And finally, with the loudest of your voices, please, the last of our salawat in honor of Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman alayhi salam. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This verse that I'm starting this lecture off with, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Hijr, verse number 45, Innal muttaqina fi jannatin wa uyun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that surely it's the God-fearing are amongst the gardens and the fountains. When you look at muttaqin, what is a muttaqin? What is taqwa? If you look at the companions of the Holy Prophet, if you look at the companions of all the Imams, you see that were all of them muttaqi? If you say all of them had taqwa, then why did we have so many differences amongst the companions of the Holy Prophet? If they were truly muttaqi, if they truly feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the history of Islam would not have happened. If they truly feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fact that right after the Holy Prophet left this world, there were wars amongst the Muslims, tells you what? The fact that companions of the Holy Prophet killed companions of the Holy Prophet tells you what? That not everyone practiced taqwa. You can sit with the Prophet, you can stand with the Prophet, you can eat with the Prophet, you can live your life with the Prophet. That doesn't mean that you'll become muttaqi. If you do not accept the message of the Holy Prophet wholeheartedly, then you will never become muttaqi. And this was the problem with a lot of the companions of the Holy Prophet. They did not accept Islam because they believed that Islam was the right religion. A lot of them, they accepted Islam, why? Because they were afraid of their life. A lot of them, they accepted Islam, why? Because they saw that Islam was the future and that's where power was. That's why they accepted Islam. And you see today, Muslims, they accept Islam, or people that come into Islam. Today, because of education, they come into Islam. Why? Because of the research. So there's a difference between the individuals that became Muslim in the time of the Holy Prophet and the people that are becoming Muslim today. Why? Because these people, they're doing research, and through that research, they're finally accepting that yes, the tenets of Islam are absolutely true. The tenets of Islam. They don't have anything else to gain. They don't gain power by accepting Islam. If you look at Islam today, is it a powerful religion? No, it's not. So when they convert and they become Muslim, it's not because they're doing it for power. Back in the time, yes, they were doing it for power. So you see that there's a difference. But what does it mean to be muttaqi? What does it mean to have taqwa? This is the main question. This is what we all need to focus on. If you look at the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, he says what? He says one phrase about his companions: neither my grandfather nor my father nor my brother had companions like mine. Why was that? It was because of their taqwa. If you look at the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, they were ready to sacrifice their life for Abu Abdullah. They were ready to sacrifice their life. Whereas the companions of the Holy Prophet, no, they weren't ready. The companions of the people Amir al-Mu'mineen was with, no, they weren't ready. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, the people Imam Hassan alayhi salam was with, no, they weren't ready. They stabbed Imam Hassan alayhi salam. But the companions, the people that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was with, each and every single one of them, what were they saying on the day of Ashur? Ya Abu Abdullah, do you give us permission? Permission for what? Permission to sacrifice our life for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No. Permission to sacrifice our life for you. Permission to sacrifice our life for you. Meaning what? Sacrificing your life for Abu Abdullah, or the Imam, the rightful Imam of the time, is the equivalent of sacrificing your life for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because the Imam of the time is the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he tells you to stand, you stand. When he tells you to sit, you sit. When you look at them, you see that each one of those, whether it's 72 companions of Abu Abdullah Hussein or 313, Each one of them is a beacon of light for all of us to follow. Why was that? Because of taqwa. How do you and I gain that type of taqwa? In order to get to that conclusion, we first have to know what taqwa is. If we don't even know what taqwa is, how can we practice it? When it comes to taqwa, Raghib Isfahani in his Mufsadat, he says what? He says that taqwa, the word taqwa, it comes from waqaya. This word in Arabic, it means to safeguard. It means to safeguard. It means to hide. It means to safeguard. But whenever you see the translation of the Quran, taqwa muttaqi, those that are God-fearing, those that have fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Taqwa is usually translated to mean fear. In reality, that's not what taqwa means. But because fear is a prerequisite of saving yourself, that's why it gets translated into fear of Allah. That's why it gets translated into fear. But the true meaning of taqwa is to save your soul from everything that is detrimental to it. Everything that can affect it negatively. That's the true meaning of taqwa. And when you look at these companions, this is what they had. This is what they had. A lot of people, they think that, you know what? Taqwa is just in relation to the religion. That's it. In reality, those are the people, they don't understand that Islam is not the name of a religion. Islam is a whole way of life. From the moment you wake up in the morning to when you go back to sleep at night, Islam tells you how to live your life. How do you wake up? Islam. How do you go to sleep? On what side should you? This is what? This is part of our life. So that tells you what? That Islam is not a religion. Islam is a whole way of life. The people that think that taqwa only deals with Islam or the religious aspect of our life, they don't understand Islam. They think that Islam is only the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They think that Islam is only the belief in the Holy Prophet. No, that's not it. You practice Islam from when you wake up to when you go to sleep. That means what? That means that you have to have taqwa from when you wake up to when you go to sleep, and everything that you do in between. Taqwa it's not just regarding salat. Taqwa is not just regarding Sawm. It's not just regarding Hajj. No, that's taqwa in relation to religion. That's taqwa in relation to religion. But what about taqwa in relation to your social life? And this is where we all have a problem. Taqwa in relation to your parents. Taqwa in relation to your children. Taqwa in relation to business. Taqwa in relation to how you interact with every single other individual. Hatta how you interact with kuffar. When you practice taqwa in all facets of life, then you truly become a muttaqi. You truly become a muttaqi. Look at the way the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, look at the way they interacted. The way they interacted with the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt and the way they interacted with the friends of the Ahlul Bayt. There's a stark difference. There's a stark difference. The way they interacted with the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt was what? If you look at the Masaib, what did each and every single one of them before the 10th of Muharam, they did their utmost to let those enemies know that they're on the wrong side. Each and every single one. They did their utmost to let the enemies know that they're on the wrong side. That Abu Abdullah al-Husayn al-Islam is truly the individual that you should sacrifice your life with. They did that. They practiced taqwa in all facets of their life. Not just the spiritual, not just the religious. When you look at taqwa, Bakr al-Muhammad, what does he say? There's a story that he has. And he says that in the time of Banu Israel, there was a man, he was ascetic, the name of him they give is Juray. He was ascetic and he was busy worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was busy praying. His mother came to the monastery and she calls his name. Once, twice, 3 times, no answer. When there's no answer, his mother, she gets angry. She gets angry. While she's leaving the monastery, she curses and she says, may the God of Banu Israel, may he defame you. To who? Her son. When she leaves, a woman, she comes into the monastery and she ends up giving birth to a child. When she gives a birth to a child, they ask her, who's the father? And what did she say? She says that Juray is the father. Juray is the father. When the whole town heard, they look at him and they say, the man who used to tell us not to commit adultery, he himself has committed adultery. This got to the king. At that time, you have to understand that in Banu Israel, prophethood was separate, kingdom was separate. Someone else was king, prophet was someone else. When it got to the king wanted him executed. When they were bringing him, the mother is coming to him, she's crying. When she's crying, Juray, he looks at her and he gets angry. He goes, why are you crying? This is happening to me. Why? Because you cursed me in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cursed me and you wanted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to defame me, so He's defamed me. So why are you crying now? Juray, he looks at everyone and he goes, what do I have to do with adultery? I have absolutely nothing to do with adultery. I spent my whole life worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He thought that was taqwa. But he was forgetting taqwa in relation to the mother. He was forgetting how to interact with the mother. They asked him, how can you prove that this child isn't yours? Imam Baqir Islam, he says, bring me the child. They bring the child. And Juray, he asked the child, an infant, he asked the child, who's your father? And the infant, to save him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that child speak. And the child says that so-and-so, who's a shepherd in so-and-so tribe, he is my father. He is my father. Do you understand how important it is to have taqwa in relation to parents? Just one time, she put her hands up in the sky and asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one time, Ya Allah, defame him. And he was defamed. Taqwa, brothers and sisters, is not in the Islamic countries. The taqwa that you get in this country, living in this country, is more powerful, will be more powerful than the taqwa that you will receive in an Islamic country. Why do I say this? Because in an Islamic country, adhan happens 3 times a day, 5 times a day. Correct or no? You hear the call to prayers 5 times a day. You go to prayer. Correct? Do you hear the call to prayer here? No, you don't. So what do you have to do? You yourself have to remember that now it's time for prayer. You yourself have to remember. In the Islamic countries, you're not surrounded by sin. You're not surrounded, yes, nowadays, of course, in some Islamic countries where they have bars and everything. But the majority of them, you don't have drinks. Here, you have alcohol. Out in the open. You can go to any store, buy alcohol. Yes or no? Here, yes. In an Islamic country, if it's underground, then that's something different. But can you go to any store and buy alcohol in an Islamic country? No, you can't. Do you see why I say that the taqwa that you'll have here is more powerful than the taqwa in an Islamic country? Why? Because it's easier in this country, living in this country, to get off the path of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It's easier. If you want to know how to get that taqwa, there's a story where there were 2 brothers. One of the brothers, he had enough of the city, and he decides to go and worship in the forest. When he leaves, his other brother, he decides to stay back in the city. It so happened that these brothers, they didn't see each other for years. Not months, but years. The brother in the forest, what was he doing? He was worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing else but worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was it. One day, after so many years, one day, there was someone who was coming towards the city, and he happened to pass by that forest. When he passed by that forest, that man, he goes, are you going to that city? He goes, yes. Can you do me a favor? He goes, yes, what's the favor? I have a brother in the city. Can you give him something from me? He goes, that's fine, but how will I know who your brother is? He goes, he's the blacksmith in the city. He's the blacksmith. He goes, okay, what do you want me to give him? What does this man do? He gets a bowl with holes in it, like a strainer, and he puts water in that. When he puts water in it, not one drop of water is coming out of the holes. Not one drop. What does he do? He covers it with cloth. He gives it to the man. The man is looking at the cloth. The cloth isn't wet. There's no water that's come out. He's astonished. How is it possible that he has a bowl with holes in it, there's no water that's coming out, and this cloth isn't wet? He's astonished. He goes and he gives it to his brother in the city. He tells the brother, I met your brother out in the forest, and he told me to give you this gift. The brother, he opens it, and he sees that the bowl is still filled with water. Not one drop has come out. The brother, he tells him, when you're about to go back to your hometown, and you go back from that forest, can you come to me, because I want to give you something to give to him. I want to give you something to give to him. He goes, okay. When it came time, he goes back to this blacksmith. This blacksmith, he takes a hot steaming iron coal from the furnace with his bare hands. He puts it in cotton. Then he covers that cotton with cloth. And then he gives it to this man to take back. What is it? Burning iron. The man now, he's astounded. This iron, he just took it out of the furnace, is burning hot. It hasn't burned the cotton, nor has it burned the cloth. He takes it back to the forest and he gives it to the brother and he tells him that, your brother gave me this. The man, he opens it up. When he opens it up, he sees that the metal is still burning hot. The cotton has not burned, nor has the cloth. Now he's astounded. Now he goes back to his brother and he asks him, how is it that you're able to do this? How is it that you're able to do this? First, the other brother asks him, how is it that you're able to do this? The bowl with the water is up on a shelf. He points to it and he goes, how is it that you're able to do it? His brother, he tells him, I'm in the forest, I'm worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other man, the one who was working with metal, he goes, you think taqwa is over there? No, true taqwa is over here in this city. He goes, how's that? Out in the forest, you don't have to deal with any sins. But here in the city, I'm surrounded by sins, yet I choose not to do them. I choose not to do them. As soon as he said this, there's a lady that walks in to the shop. When that lady walks into the shop, the man who was worshipping in the forest, he lays his eyes on that lady. As soon as he lays his eyes on that lady, the water starts dripping. The water starts dripping from that bowl. Yet the coal or the iron that the other brother had, it's still hot. It's still hot. What does this mean? This means that the taqwa that you gain when you're surrounded by sin and you choose not to commit a sin is going to be stronger than the taqwa that you'll gain when you're out in the forest. The taqwa that you'll gain when you're not surrounded by any sins. That's what taqwa is. When it comes to taqwa in relation, for example, to kids, Amir al-Mu'mineen, what does he say? Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says that your children, they have 3 rights over you. If I was to ask the parents, can you name me those 3 rights? How many of us would know? One of the rights is what? That you give your child a good name. Another right is that you teach them the Quran. The third right is that you give them a good education. You give them a good education. What does Amir al-Mu'mineen cover in these 3 things? Look at what he covers. A good education will help where? In this world. The Quran will help where? In the afterlife. In the afterlife. A lot of us, what do we end up doing? We end up focusing on one and letting go of the other. Especially living in the West. We end up focusing more on one aspect and we end up leaving the other. And then when the children grow up, they don't know about the other aspect. Why? Because their parents just kept pushing them to be better at school. Be better at school. Be better at reciting the Quran. Be better at your religion. Push them both together. Don't keep one back, especially the one that's the most important. Do not keep it back. Push it both together. How many of us are giving our children those rights? If we're not, then it's not taqwa. Taqwa in relation to other mu'mineen. How many rights does another mu'min have? Does anyone know? If you look at Amir al-Mu'mineen, Amir al-Mu'mineen says that a mu'min, in regards to another mu'min, has 30 rights. 30 rights. Most of us won't even know 5. Won't even know 5. Taqwa in relation to business. Taqwa in relation to business. When it comes to business, what does Amir al-Mu'mineen say about business? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, look, I myself heard from the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the ni'mat of Allah, the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you were to split it into 10 parts, 9 of those parts is in business and trade. 9/10 of the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in business and trade. That's why you see that even within the Shia community, that there's some people that are known for business. In the Shia community, they're known for business. And you see how they're thriving. You see how they're helping their own people. Why? Because 9/10 of barakah is in business. What do we end up doing when it comes to business? Even though it's haram, changing products. It's made in China. You know what? If it's made in USA, it sells better. If it's made in Japan, if we put the sticker of made in Japan, it will sell better. When we know this is haram, then we need to stop doing this. How do you and I become muttaqi? These small things that we do in our daily life, we start bringing about change in this. If everyone practiced social taqwa, this world itself would be Jannah. This world itself would be a heaven. If everyone practiced social taqwa. The reason the world is the way it is why? Because every individual, all they care about right now is their own self. They're not looking at another person. If they are, they're trying to figure out, you know what? Why does he have it? Why don't I have it? Instead of saying, I wish I had what he has, what are they saying? No, I don't want him to have it. I just want myself to, I just want me to have it. That's what everyone's saying. You look at the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, none of them were like that. Each one of them, what were they doing? Each one of them was telling the other and giving good news to the other about what's to come in a few moments. They weren't trying to pull someone back. No, they were encouraging them to sacrifice themselves for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. None of them were saying no, even though they knew what the outcome was going to be. That's what taqwa is. If you practice taqwa in that sense, then you'll have ma'rifat of the imam of the time. If you don't have taqwa, no. You'll take anyone that claims to be imam. And you see the majority of Muslims, that's exactly what they're doing. Whoever has power, that's the imam. We listen to him no matter what he does. And that's the reason Islam is where it's at today. Whoever came to power in whichever way, there are imams. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. You have to understand that in order for you and I to have taqwa, this battle that is raging within ourselves between nafs al-ammara and nafs al-lawwama. The Quran, it tells us about this. Nafs al-ammara is that nafs that is telling us to do something bad. Nafs al-lawwama is the one that tells us, no, if you do this, then you know what, this is the consequences that you will pay. You see that this rages on within the human psyche. And if you want to see this out in the open, nafs al-ammara versus nafs al-lawwama, there's no better incident than to look at Karbala. No better incident to look at than Karbala. On one side, you had nafs al-ammara out. On the other side, you had nafs al-lawwama. On one side, you had the army of Yazid. On the other side, you had the army of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. One nafs, one army is telling others, you know, come, get to your senses. Look at what's happening in the world. The other side is, what were they saying? No, he is the Imam, this person. We pledge allegiance to this person. Hussein has to pledge allegiance also. At the end of the day, that fight between Nafs al-Ammar and Nafs al-Lawama, if the side of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam and the side of Yazid, look at what side still exists today. Look at what side people still speak about today. The side of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam. Why? Because every single one of those individuals, what did they do? They took that Nafs al-Ammara and they controlled it to the point where they didn't care for it. They didn't care. And this is what we need to do. We say Labbaik ya Imam Zaman. We say Labbaik ya Hussein. If we were there, would we truly sacrifice our life for Abu Abdullah? Would we truly sacrifice our life? If we can't even sacrifice, if we can't even give up a few sins for the Imam of the time, what makes you and I think that we would be able to sacrifice our life for Imam? What makes you and I think that? There's a book entitled Arba'in, not Arba'in of Abu Abdullah Hussein, it's just entitled Arba'in because it's got about 40 stories in it. And one of those stories, one of our past scholars, they constantly were doing dua and saying, I wish I was in Karbala. I wish I was with Abu Abdullah Hussein at the time. I would have sacrificed my life for him. I would have sacrificed the same way the majority of Shias today do. If we were in Karbala, we would have sacrificed our life for Imam Hussein at the time. He ends up seeing the events of Karbala in his dream. He ends up seeing them. Abu Abdullah Hussein, he looks at him and he says to him, you were constantly wishing that you were here in Karbala. You were constantly wishing that you were here in Karbala. You're here now. Mullah, yes, I was. You constantly said that you'd be willing to give up your life for me. Isn't that true? Mullah, yes, I am. He goes, okay. Do this. We're about to start our prayers. When you see an arrow come my way, I want you to stop it with your body. I want you to stop it with your body. The man, he goes, Mullah, yes, no problem. It's okay. Abu Abdullah Hussein, when he starts his prayer, as soon as he starts his prayer, an arrow is shot from the enemy's camp, it comes. This man who kept saying, I will give my life for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. What does he do? As soon as he sees the arrow come near his body, he moves to the side. When he moves to the side, Abu Abdullah gets hit. Abu Abdullah gets hit. A second arrow comes. He sees it coming. As soon as it gets close to him, he moves to the side, Abu Abdullah gets hit. A third arrow comes. He sees it come close to him. As soon as it comes close, he moves to the side, Abu Abdullah gets it. Imam Hussein, he goes, that's it. He finishes his prayer, he goes, that's it. Where? You said that you were going to give your life for me, but you can't even take one arrow from me. This is the difference between giving lip service to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam and those individuals that truly gave their life and their soul for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam. That's what all of us need to remember. You look at Imam Hussein al-Islam. Who was he with? 20,000 Kufans, they wrote letters. But when the time came, how many people from Kufa went to Imam Hussein? 20,000. You look at Imam Hussein alayhi salam, there's a reason he's known as Mazloom. There's a reason he's known as Mazloom. Why? Not because he didn't have companions. No, he had the greatest of companions. And Imam Hussein tells that alim in that dream that these companions of mine, no one can be like these companions of mine except for those 313 of my great-grandsons that will be born later. No one. These companions that I had, they gave their life. They gave their blood. They gave their life for me. Don't ever think that you're like them. Why? This was an alim. This was a scholar. And the way we are, not just us, in any religion, isn't it that the scholar is supposed to be the most God-fearing? Isn't it that the scholar, their akhlaq is supposed to be better than everyone else's? Isn't it the scholar who's supposed to be above the regular people? Why? Because this person is more learned in regards to religion? Yes. Yes. But you see, Imam Hussein, I'm telling him, a scholar, that don't think that you're at the same level as these companions of mine. These companions, it was already written for them before they were even born that they would sacrifice their life for me. These were the companions. How were they able to get to this status? It's because of tazkiyat al-nafs. It's because they trained their souls to get there. If we're not even able to give up, for example, listening to music for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, if we're not even able to give up listening to music for Imam Zaman alayhi salam, how are we going to give our life to Imam Zaman? If we're not able, the hardest thing to do is cut off family relations. I said that yesterday too. One of the reasons that you can cut off family relations is what? If these family members are antagonizing Islam, if these family members have come out against Islam, that's one of the reasons that you cut off family relations. If we're not able to cut off family relations because of this, then we're not able to give our life for Imam Zaman alayhi salam. So when you see taqwa being practiced, or when you yourself, you see that change coming within you, then you know that the message of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam has finally reached your heart. When you finally see that change start within yourself, if that change hasn't started, then no, the message of Imam Hussein has not reached you. The message of Imam Hussein was not just to cry over him and not just to beat your chest over him. The message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam was to bring about a change within yourself. That was the message of Imam Hussein, or one of the messages, one of the most important messages, to bring about a change within yourself. Once every individual brings about a change within themselves, then the society itself will automatically become better. Then the society would be. And that's exactly what Amir al-Mu'mineen says. He says that if everyone just worried about their afterlife and not told other people, you need to do this, you need to do that, if everyone just worried about their afterlife, the world would be better. The world will be better. Brothers, sisters, tonight is the third. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, he's already reached Karbala. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, when he reaches Karbala, or when he's going towards Kufa, who ends up stopping him? A man by the name of Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyah. He ends up stopping Abu Abdullah. And I'm not going to recite Hur's Masa'ib today. But when he stops him, what does Imam Hussein say to him? He goes, Hur, I've come here because the people of Kufa, they're the ones that called me. And Hur, he goes, Ibn Rasulullah, I don't know anything about that, but all I've been given is the order to hold you here. When he says this, Abu Abdullah, he says, Hur, if the people of Kufa do not want me, then leave me alone, let me go and I'll go back. I won't even go back to Medina, I won't even go back to Mecca. I'll go somewhere else. I'll go in peace. Hur, he says, Ibn Rasulullah, I can't. When he says this, that's when Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, he gets angry. And he says, Hur, may your mother weep over you. When he says this, look at the difference between being a legitimate born and being illegitimate born. When Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam says this, he replies, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, you're the son of Fatima. You're the son of Bint Rasul. That's why I can't say anything about your mother. But if it was someone else, if they were to say this to me, I would surely have given them a response. Even these individuals, this individual who was on the side of Yazid until when? Until the day of Ashur. This individual, until the day of Ashur, he was on the side of Yazid. Yet he knew where right was. He knew where he needed to be. He needed that little push. And inshallah, when we get to repentance, we'll talk about how. What does it mean to be repentant? What does it, or how do you and I repent? But Hur was in the camp of Yazid. In the last moment, he came to the camp of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam. Yet, 1400 years after the incident, what do we say about Hur? We say alayhi salam. May peace be upon him. Why? Because of those few moments when he decided to switch sides. Those few moments. Sallallahu alayka ya Rasulallah. Sallallahu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sallallahu alayki ya Siddiqatu Fatima. Sallallahu alayka ya Hasan al-Mujtaba. Sallallahu alayka ya Gharib al-Ghuraba. Ya Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Brothers and sisters, after the events of Karbala, the caravan of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam, or I should say the caravan of Sayyid al-Sajjad and the caravan of Lady Zainab, it's come back to Medina. When it's come back to Medina, Sayyid al-Sajjad, he's crying. And when he's crying, one of the companions, they come to him and they ask him, Ya Sayyid al-Sajjad, why are you crying this much? Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam has been avenged. When he says this, Sayyid al-Sajjad, he starts to cry and he says, oh my companion, you've not been fair with me. He goes, why is that? He goes, oh my companion, Yaqub, he had 12 sons. One of them, he was only invisible to him. One of them was just out from the sight of his eyes. And Yaqub, he cried so much that his eyesight had left. But what did I face? I saw them decapitating my brother Ali al-Akbar. I saw them decapitating my father, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. But what does he say? When the companion, he asked him, Ya Abu Abdullah, where was it that you had the most amount of trouble? When he was asked this, Imam Zain al-Abidin, he doesn't tell his companion, oh my companion, it was the sands of Karbala. He doesn't tell him, oh my companion, it was the route to Kufa. He doesn't tell him, oh my companion, it was what we faced in Kufa. He doesn't even say what happened to us on the way to Sham. But what does he say when he was asked, where was it that you felt the most amount of pain? What does Imam Zain al-Abidin say? He says, Asham, Asham, Asham. When he asked him, Ya Sayyid al-Sajjad, why is it Asham? Imam Zain al-Abidin, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam, he was killed in Karbala. Imam Zain al-Abidin, if anyone has gone to Karbala, you see the narrations, they say that when they left from Medina, do you know how many kids there were? The kids themselves, there were over 60 children of Banu Hashim that went with Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam. When they got to Sham and Lady Zainab, she counted the children. Do you know how many children there were? There were only 13 children that were left. Why were there 13 children? Because when they were taken from Karbala to Kufa, from Kufa to Sham, whenever a child would fall down, the enemies, they would not stop. They would just leave the child behind. That's why if you've ever gone to Iraq, if you've ever gone to Karbala, from Karbala or from Kufa to Sham, you'll see 40 miles, 50 miles. There's always a small little mound. There's always a small cover. That is what? This is where the daughter of Imam Hassan is. This is where the son of Imam Hassan is. This is where a son of Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib is. Why? It's because these children, they fell from their horses, they fell from their camels, and the enemies would not stop. But when Sayyid al-Sajjad was asked, why did you say Sham? He says, why? Because when we were in Sham, the wife of the enemy, Yazid, she herself was completely covered, but my auntie Zainab, she had no cover on her. What was happening in Sham? Brothers and sisters, when they get to Sham, on the caravan, it gets to Sham, when it gets to Sham, the wife of Yazid, she happened to be a lover of the Ahlul Bayt. When she happened to be a lover of the Ahlul Bayt, the people, they tell this wife, oh ma'am, oh mistress, They have brought these Baghis, they have brought these people from, they defeated them in war and they brought them here. When she says this, she says to her maids that I'm going to come and see them, do not worry. When she's coming, Lady Zainab, she looks at Lady Kulthum and she says to her, oh my sister Kulthum, do you know who that is? Lady Kulthum, she replies, oh my sister Zainab, after the shahadat of Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam, my eyesight has become weak, I don't know. She says, look carefully, oh my sister, that is Hind, the lady that we ourselves, we taught how to do hijab. And when Hind, she comes, where was she? She was sitting on the litter. She comes down, she asks these individuals, where are you from? Lady Zainab, she replies that we are people of Medina. When she hears Medina, Hind, she comes down from her litter and she sits down. Lady Zainab, she asks her, why did you sit down? She says, oh, because of the honor of the people of Medina. Lady Zainab, she asks her, do you know people in Medina? That's when she answers, if I ask you about certain individuals, oh my lady, will you be able to tell me? She tells me, who do you want to know about? Can you tell me about Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam? Lady Zainab, she starts to cry and she tells her, do you want to know about anyone else? She says, oh my lady, he had a son who was the mirror image of Rasulullah and his name was Ali al-Akbar. Can you tell me about him? That's when Lady Zainab, she starts to cry and she says, do you want to know about anyone else? That's when she says that, oh, he had a brother by the name of Abbas. Do you want to know about anyone else? She says, oh my lady, can you tell me about this individual? That's when Lady Zainab, she starts to cry and she says, oh Hind, do you not want to ask about Abu Abdullah's sisters, Lady Zainab and Kulthum? That's when Hind, she gets angry and she says, oh my lady, do not repeat those two names in this place. Why? Because those are the daughters of Bint Rasul and this is the palace of Yazid. Do not take their names here. That's when Lady Zainab, she starts to cry and she says, oh Hind, do you not recognize me? I am Zainab. You asked me about Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam. Look at that head over there. That is the head of Abu Abdullah. You asked me about Ali al-Akbar. And that is Ali al-Akbar's head. You asked me about Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam. That is Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam. Oh Hind, you asked me about Sayyid al-Sajideen. That's him in the shackles at the end. That is Zainul Abidin. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un wal la'natullahi ala qawmil kafirin. Mata Hussein.